Let's be honest. If you're a new dad listening to this, you're probably running on 3 hours of sleep, a lukewarm cup of coffee, and cold pizza. We call it survival mode, but let's talk about the toll that actually is taking on you. Today, we're diving into why your nutrition is the secret weapon that you're currently ignoring and how to stop eating like a raccoon so you can actually enjoy this fatherhood thing. We'll be back in a moment with a certified nutritionist expert who will help you start your transformation from survivor to effective and crushing it. This program is made possible by financial support from Smile Online Course and Books. Smile Online offers online courses for teens and young adults designed to help them master social and career skills. Subject matter includes customer service skills, job interviewing, electronic etiquette, and managing stress. More information is available at thefatherhoodchallenge.com. That's thefatherhoodchallenge.com.
Welcome to the Fatherhood Challenge, a movement to awaken and inspire fathers everywhere to take great pride in their role and to challenge society to understand how important fathers are to the stability and culture of their family's environment. Now, here's your host, Jonathan Guerrero.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me and my co-host and son, Isaac.
Hello.
This episode is called Man Down, How Poor Nutrition Sabotages New Dads. Our guest is certified nutritionist Dr. J.J. Meyer, and he's agreed to call in and join us this morning. His practice centers on detection and treatment of chronic disorders and autoimmune digestive thyroid and severe fatigue, and also hormonal issues. He's also passionate towards children with Asperger's and autism, as well as patients struggling with weight loss. I have personally experienced amazing results from his methods, and I'm excited to have him here on the program to help you start your positive change. Dr. Meyer, welcome to the Fatherhood Challenge.
Good morning, guys. This is a real honor to be with you. I appreciate you inviting me.
If you've listened to the program long enough, you know that we start out with my favorite question of all, which is, what is your favorite dad joke?
Well, you know what it's a dad joke, right?
I do.
when it's apparent. Got to think about that one for a second, you know?
I love that one. That one never gets old.
Okay, I'll tell another one then.
Go for it.
What kind of a doctor does a boat need?
What kind of a doctor does a boat need?
Well, only he would know this.
Yeah. I give up.
Okay, a boat dock.
Oh my goodness, I should have known that.
It was almost too easy, right, guys?
It was too easy. How did I miss that?
I should have known.
That was great. Well, Dr. Meyer, what is the story behind why you got into nutrition?
I was a young chiropractor down in southern Iowa, and this was in the late 70s. And I don't know, I always loved to talk about nutrition, but we really didn't have a lot of training in that in school. And so I just kept, even on my filing cabinet in my office, I just kept the basic things in there. I can remember I had multiple mineral, and I had B complex, and I had some vitamin C and zinc, just the common ones, you know. And then about that time, there was a guy out of Michigan, Jay Versendahl is his name, and this guy, he was into kinesiology. And my brother-in-law had just started working with him with kinesiology or muscle testing. And I guess I've been doing that longer than anybody in Iowa just because I'm old. But it was just amazing how he would zero in with kinesiology on weaknesses in the body, like if it was liver or kidney, or whether it was infections or thyroid or adrenal problems, or it was amazing how he would treat that with nutrition. So I was kind of like a medical doctor then, except I was using good stuff, nutritional stuff, but I would kind of treat the symptom. And that's what got me started in looking at nutrition. But now it's kind of evolved into, well, we'll talk about that. I'd like to, with methylation and how that exactly works.
Yeah, that's a word that is unknown to a lot of people. And yes, later on, I would love to know, we'll get into what methylation is, how it works. Most new dads are living on caffeine and sugar and just trying to survive sleep deprivation. What is that actually doing to their internal battery? And is there a better way to fuel that 3 a.m. wake up call?
I tell everybody, you get to thinking if a mom's nursing, she's going to eat more calories, she's going to drink a lot of water, that type of thing. But guys, I tell the guys, you don't really want to get hooked on, like, I'm one, for example, I've never had a sip of a energy drink. And I just know I'm a little hyper anyway. And even in college, when I'd get with my buddies and they'd go down and they'd say, hey, you want to have some coffee? And I'd say, sure. So I started doing the coffee thing. And man, by the time I got back to class, I was jumping in my seat. I was so hyper. It totally acts like a drug, which it is. Caffeine everybody knows the stimulant effect of that. But with caffeine and sugar together, our inflammatory foods in this order, they always go wheat, corn, dairy, then sugar, then soy. And if a person's doing sugar with caffeine, we're talk about detrimental, not only to our gut, because you're throwing in an inflammatory food called sugar, but then when you take a drug with it, with caffeine, which they're just putting mass of that in our energy drinks, and the detrimental effect of that is it really messes up your circadian rhythm if a person's doing that just to get a quick fix to wake up. It's so detrimental to the brain. And I tell everybody, our gut is our second brain anyway. The way we're made, we have more bacteria in our gut than we have cells in the body. So
that's fascinating.
Isn't that amazing? And so, just think about that, like 7-8 pounds of that in our gut. So if we are messing with that, it messes with our brain because those are neurotransmitters. So they'll literally mess with you. So my first suggestion to guys, up the water. Guys need 120 ounces, women need 80, but guys need that 120. That's almost a gallon of water a day. So no matter what size we are, we need a lot of water because we are so toxic in America. It's unbelievable. The foods, even the water's toxic. I tell people, go and put a reverse osmosis in your house. They're inexpensive. You can get them from Walmart, Amazon. You can get them online and have somebody put it in for you. And the water has no taste to it. It takes out all the nasty stuff in that water. But when people do that, the real bad part about this with guys is if you're depriving yourself of sleep, then you have to really be careful with that. Especially if you have a little baby, boy or girl, being born into your home. And it's amazing how, and dad, you got to set the stage for the whole family. But it amazes me how people are continually feeding themselves with these energy drinks to wake up and then to relax. Then some people are even taking like antihistamines at night to make them sleepy, or it's like, no. So when you get a little squirt in the house and they're waking you up at, every couple hours to start with, and even our kids, which we were kind of lazy, we'd even move over when they'd run into our bed at 2 or 3 in the morning. We would just slide over. But it does interrupt sleep. And when you do that, you have to prepare for that. Prepare the body. Up the water. Eat 3 meals a day. And their meals should be in this order, honestly. They should be, our biggest meal we should have is for lunch. The second biggest one should be for breakfast. And the smallest by far always should be the end of the day, the supper or the dinner. And we didn't grow up that way. That was our biggest meal because we all sat around the dinner table and ate. But the food was better back when I was a kid. But now, if we eat, like going into that evening time, if we eat that biggest meal at supper time, I mean, get this, our heavy duty beef and pork especially, it can take 6 to 8 hours when you eat that at night before it goes from your stomach to the small intestine. So just think about that. So the body, you wonder why you wake up the next morning and you're super tired because your body's been digesting a slow digesting protein like beef and pork. Even fish and chicken is 5 to 6 hours. And then you've got my favorite one you can have any time of the day, and this is what I recommend. You can have it morning for breakfast or lunch or supper, is an egg, because it only takes 4 hours to digest. And then you've got also my favorite of all time, my wife gives me grief because I spent an arm and a leg on this, is seeds and nuts. And they're so good. They're so good for you, but they only take a couple hours to digest. And those are a great one to have at night because they're full of fat and protein both. We eat 3 meals a day. That big one again, you know, you want to have that for lunch. And then the next biggest should be breakfast. And then the smallest one by far at the end of the day. Yeah, I hope that helped a little bit. I tell guys especially, don't try to monkey with that, with the rhythm of the body, with when there's sleep deprivation. Yeah, just go with it. Just get back to sleep. Don't try to alter it with any chemistry because it'll really mess with you.
Isaac, are you good so far?
Yeah, it makes sense so far.
Many dads report daddy fog or cognitive fog in the first year. Which specific nutrients are software updates or are that our brain needs to stay sharp and focused at work and at home?
That's a great question. And I hear this from people too, you know, and I think we've seen even in my office a lot more brain fog period just with since COVID even. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but there's so many good foods that we can do to help that. Our brain loves omega-3 fatty acids, which we find in fish. It's getting harder to find really good fish is a thing in our country. We've only have, get this, we got probably 1/10 of the fish in the ocean today that we had even 100 years ago. So we're seeing a lot of farm fish. So when we farm fish, we're feeding those usually an inflammatory food, a lot of corn, which doesn't help. We've got this co-op in our town too, where you can actually buy real fish. And I say real fish, not the farm fish. And it's so good because the omega-3 fatty acids are so good for the brain. And then you've got B vitamins. They're excellent, especially methylfolate, B9 is great. Magnesium's good for the brain. And we can get choline, which is really high in eggs. Eggs being my favorite protein that only takes, you know, like we just talked about, only takes about, what is it, just 2 to 4 hours to digest, which is really good. You can have that any time of the day, but that is a great brain food. Magnesium is really a good one. Magnesium we give to women so that they don't have postpartum depression, for example, after having a baby. And you can find that in pumpkin seeds and spinach and almonds. And when I talk about seeds and nuts, make sure you get them organic because I'm telling you, they're one of the highest foods right now in pesticides, especially almonds. It takes you half a day to get the hide off them. And what that hide is just, that's bad chemistry on there. It's a lot of pesticides and herbicides, which you got to really be careful of. So vitamin D is really good for the brain. And some of you know, and maybe don't know, that vitamin D isn't a vitamin. It's actually a corticosteroid hormone.
Oh, wow.
So,
I didn't know that.
isn't that crazy? So when people, they go to their doc, and I'm not dishing the docs because I was guilty of this too, because I wrote my paper when I was working on my diplomate for nutrition. I was working with vitamin D, and my wife still talks about, I had papers all over my room. And I didn't see any contradiction or contraindication where you could take a slug of vitamin D. And even now, I look back, I thought everybody needed 75 nanograms in their blood of vitamin D. Well, come to find out, vitamin D is not a vitamin. It's a corticosteroid hormone. And if you get too much, it literally, we'll talk about it here in a little bit, but it can paralyze the VDR receptor, which helps us defend. And vitamin D receptor is a big one because the list is a mile long in there for infections, autoimmune cancers. So we can get too much vitamin D and it actually paralyzes the receptor. Those are some of the things: magnesium, vitamin C, like we talked about, rest. You got to give your brain time to heal, and rest is really good. That's something that people really neglect, and they don't sleep well. And there's different ways we can help ourselves. I think water's a real key. People, just for the brain, just keep that water up there, like we were talking about. 120 ounces for guys is not a big stretch. And when you first start doing that, you want to pee like every 5 minutes
Oh,
until
for
you're
sure. Yes.
yeah. It works that way too, because your adrenal glands are responsible for regulating about 70-80% of that fluid balance in the body. So it takes it a while. It takes a couple, 3 weeks before you settle down and don't have to run to the restroom. But yeah, but put in that reverse osmosis in your home and start drinking the really good water then.
There's something you said earlier that caught my attention. And you talked about postpartum depression and how nuts are recommended for mothers to combat that. But paternal postpartum depression is starting to become more in the spotlight. People are becoming more aware of it and discovering that that's a thing. I realized when I look back on my experience when my wife was pregnant and then into the fourth trimester, in the fourth trimester, I realized looking back that I actually had it and it was undiagnosed and nobody knew what that was back then. Mm-hmm. So nuts, grains, would that also work for new dads as well to combat paternal postpartum depression?
To me, we got to be careful because omega-3 fatty acids are great. That'd be found in fish. And even flax or flax oil is omega-3 fatty acid. But when we get into grains, the really scary ones, especially high in cancer, is soy. That's by far the most cancer-causing grain. But the other two is wheat and corn. They're the number 1 and 2 inflammatory foods we can put in our body. And so we got to look at that like, we probably, all of us, if the truth of the matter is in America, because of glyphosate, the main ingredient in Roundup, we probably shouldn't even be eating any grains at all, actually, because it's contributing to cancers galore, especially soy. And then actually wheat has more Roundup. I call it glyphosate because that's the main ingredient in Roundup. And it has more per acre than even corn. So it goes wheat, corn, then soy has by far the most. It's just scary to see how much glyphosate or Roundup is put on a soybean field. And people say, I don't eat soy. And I said, really? I said, you don't eat meat, you don't have dairy, because half of the grain they're feeding the cattle is half soy and half corn.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it's scary. So there's one grain that I say, people, you can eat it. And just the way God made it, it's kind of interesting. So he put omega-3 fatty acids in, that's what we find, remember, in fish and also flax. It actually is found in oats. So oats have omega-6, but it also has that omega-3 in there with it. So I tell people you can get away with it. Get some good organic oats. And I kind of like the texture of, that crunch too, the old granola. So you can get away with doing that. And that's a good snack, to have.
Yeah. One question I have too is when it comes to oats, do we have to worry about glyphosate on any of the oats?
We do. You leave it to man again. That's a great question because, they're GMO and potatoes and sugar beets and all the cheap oils. They're scary. When we do oils, we really want to cook with the number one cooking oil would be avocado oil. And then it goes, then you want to do like coconut oil, but it has to be refined as a little better for cooking. and then coconut oil. And people use olive oil, and I say do not use olive oil for cooking because it's got a really low smoke point. So when people do that, they're actually plugging their vessels up, and it'll turn to a trans fat. And people say, well, my cholesterol is why our vessels plug up. And I say, no, it totally isn't. It's hydrogenation. It's hydrogenated oils. And that's pretty much like margarine or anything in a bag in a box has hydrogenated oil. And that's what plugs our vessels up. So, yeah, sorry I got off track there, but it just made me think about that. We're just so geared in this country to everything fast, you know? And my number one cancer causing food, I've said for years, is a Dorito chip. And now they got these Takis, and they're just terrible. They're so cancer causing for kids because they're not even corn, they're corn byproducts. It's almost like making them swallow ethanol. It's a byproduct of the corn plant, and it just scares me.
There's a word I heard you use earlier in this episode, and it's called methylation. What is methylation, and how is it used for determining what the body needs?
We have a big gods, and this gets kind of interesting because methylation happens to all of us. It's a biochemical process. So what happens is we've got these chromosomes, right? We can't do anything about those. We get a set from mom and a set from dad. We get 23 chromosomes from each, so we end up with 46 chromosomes. Well, then we got genes, you know, so we got all these like 20,000 genes, but with those genes, we've got these things called SNPs, SNPs. So what that stands for is single nucleotide polymorphin, and that's just a fancy word that means we have about 4 million of these SNPs located within genes, and and that's what I do. I try to do what's called holistic methylation. There's about 230 of us in the country that does this, and there's about 75 to 80 of us that do it like that I do, and the gal that developed this 15 years ago. I use kinesiology. We go through a bunch of vials, and what we're doing, we try to locate like which one of these SNPs, like a SNP, for example. Let me give you the big ones because there's 16 big ones, and the medical profession knows this also. They know exactly what they do. The first one is, it's called the endophis gene, and in that one is where all of our energy is. I use that as an example because we all have to have energy to get through a day, and that's the one. If it doesn't work right, we're just more fatigued, we gain weight, it's harder to lose weight, and that's a big one. And over the last 3 years, I found that gene and also the VDR gene. That's the 10th, they call it number 10. And that stands for vitamin D receptor. We already alluded on that a little bit. And those two I find on everybody. And that one is where the list is just a mile long, the VDR receptor. There's infections, cancers, autoimmune galore in that one. So, and what we do, we just try to figure out what nutrient we can give that person. And even for that first one, we talked about the endophis SNP. That one alone, I've got like 12 different things I just try on patients and see which one makes them the strongest. And it's really kind of fun because we see changes like within 3 days to 3 weeks with that one for more energy, the VDR to help the body defend. We're seeing these turbo viruses going around right now, and they're going to continue because they're all mutating and getting stronger. So that's what we do is just, we try to get the body methylating correctly. And it happens billions of times a second. We just kind of go about our business, but there's ways that you can enhance it to make it work better.
Isaac, are you good?
I didn't fully pick up everything on there, but I do have one question of my own.
Yes.
I have noticed, and I kind of picked this up after I've been listening to so far, and I realized that nuts are actually really good for you in that kind of sentence, because like you've been like talking about this, and like a lot of the things that you've been talking about has been doing with like nuts and seeds. Mm-hmm. Why is that?
In this order, they're anti-cancer foods. It goes English walnut, then it goes pecans, then Brazil nut. Number 4 is an almond. And number 5 is pistachios. So the almonds, if you don't get an organic one, they're one of the highest foods in pesticides. So then it gets cancer causing. So when you eat seeds and nuts, they're unbelievably high in fat and protein, but it's good fat, good protein, digest within 2 hours. And it's so good for the brain, so good for the gut. So that's why I eat them. And any protein before you go to bed, if it's a good, quick digesting one, it'll help you rest. I'll tell you, Isaac, I'm a fan. Pumpkin seeds, you know me in my office, I like to kill parasites, right? And pumpkin seeds actually paralyze those little guys. So,
wow.
Yeah, so they'll get out of your body a lot quicker.
How can dads connect with you with any questions that they have?
They can use my email address, and it's a simple one. It's jjmeyer, MEYERDC, D as in dog, C as in cat, at gmail.com, and I'd be glad to connect with anybody who has questions.
And just to make things easier, if you go to thefatherhoodchallenge.com, that's thefatherhoodchallenge.com. If you go to this episode and you're looking for the episode called Man Down, How Poor Nutrition Sabotages New Dads, go to that episode, look below the episode description, and I will have Dr. Meyer's email address posted right there for your convenience. Dr. Meyer, as we close, what is your challenge to dads listening now?
You know, I've always said being a father is probably the number one reward in life. We get at the end of this whole time, and 100% of us don't get out of this alive. And you don't hear people on their deathbed saying, man, I wish I'd have mowed my lawn more, made it look better with the neighborhood. I wish I'd have washed my car. I wish I'd have made more money. It's like you don't hear any of that. It's like, I wish I'd have spent more time with my kids, listened better when they were at home. I'm telling you, from the time they're born until they leave, that time, those 16, 17, 18, 19 years, you can't believe how fast that time goes. And just cherish every moment and be a great example to them. I hated the song Cats in the Cradle and Silver Spoon, and that got my attention. When you come home from work and they say, Dad, can we play catch? Or they ask you a question, Daddy, can you come over and play dolls? Just do it. I'm telling you, you won't believe how fast those little people grow up. And you'll never regret spending time. I always say the 3 T's: time, talk, and touch. Those are the 3 that I recommend every daddy.
Well, Dr. Meyer, I was afraid of this. There's so much that we could have talked about. I feel like we barely scratched the surface of this topic, and we're already out of time. So we're definitely going to have you back.
Yeah, we could do this all day. If we're talking about nutrition and stuff, we could just do this all day.
Well, thank you guys. It's been a pleasure, and you're right. I'm looking at the time. It's like, wow, time flies when you're having fun. I had fun anyway. Yeah. My wife says, you'd probably see more patients if you didn't talk so much.
Well, yeah, but then that's what makes you a lot of fun.
Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fatherhood Challenge. If you would like to contact us, listen to other episodes, find any resource mentioned in this program, or find out more information about the Fatherhood Challenge, please visit thefatherhoodchallenge.com. That's thefatherhoodchallenge.com.